Welcome back to our channel. Dani felt the world fall out from beneath her feet the moment the realization settled into her mind. The dim corridor outside the storage wing had always seemed quiet, harmless, almost forgotten by the rest of the neighborhood. Yet on that day, it became a tunnel of shifting shadows and growing dread, drawing her down its narrow spine until she reached the place where everything changed. She had followed Hayley only out of instinct, a subtle prickle at the back of her neck that something was wrong. Her suspicion had no form at first, no clear direction, just a faint heaviness in Hayley's movements and the strange tension she tried and failed to hide. Dani had learned to read that tension years ago, long before they drifted apart, long before Hayley began hiding entire pieces of her life behind walls Dani could no longer climb. That instinct brought her here. It forced her to still her breath as she slipped behind a stack of containers and watched, unblinking, as Hayley and Randy hovered over the blueprints sprawled across the old work table. Their gestures were sharp, curt, the unmistakable posture of people preparing for something irreversible. The pattern slowly revealed itself to Dani the longer she observed, movements too controlled to be harmless, the precise way Randy traced lines on the map, the grim set of Hayley's jaw. The truth came together in a sickening, undeniable shape. They were planning Bill's death. A cold tremor passed through Dani so violently she thought the two might hear the shaking of her pulse. Her mind tried to reject the scene, to bend reality back into something safer, less grotesque, but the evidence refused to soften. Everything about Hayley and Randy's posture radiated intent. Bill, who had trusted them both, who believed he understood the tensions around him, had no idea the storm forming just out of sight. Dani felt her stomach twist as she realized how many signs she herself had ignored. The clipped words Hayley had muttered weeks before, her sudden unease around Bill, Randy's evasive excuses and frequent disappearances, all the subtle fractures that now formed a single, terrible structure. They had been building toward this moment long before Dani had caught them. Her shock simmered into something darker. Anger rose from the pit of her chest like a tide she couldn't stop, an anger not just at what they were planning, but at herself for being blind to it. She recalled every moment she had dismissed Hayley's bitterness, every time she excused Randy's coldness toward Bill as stress or exhaustion. Now she had no illusions left to protect herself from the truth. The two people she once thought she understood had crossed a line she never imagined they were capable of approaching. As she watched them continue their preparations, her mind spiraled through conflicting impulses. She wanted to burst out from the shadows, to drag them both away from the table, to force them to see the monstrousness of what they were plotting. But another part of her held her in place, rigid with fear. If they were cold enough to plan Bill's death, they could turn on her without hesitation. The realization made her skin crawl. She felt trapped in a nightmare where any wrong move could draw their attention and mark her as the next threat to be eliminated. Slowly, her shock softened into a cold, trembling calculation. She needed to understand why Hayley wanted Bill dead. It wasn't enough to know that they were planning. She needed the motivation that fueled the betrayal. Hayley wasn't impulsive, not like Randy. She didn't fall into violence out of emotion alone. Her decisions were built on fear, resentment, ambition, or secrets so deeply rooted they left scars. Dani understood that if she wanted to stop them, she needed to grasp the depth of Hayley's internal conflict. She stepped back deeper into the shadows, her pulse hammering painfully against her ribs, and allowed her mind to drift through every memory she had of Hayley and Bill's strained history. The silent arguments, the unresolved jealousy, the heavy resentment Hayley carried like a second spine. Bill had unknowingly pushed every buried insecurity in her. He had cornered her ambitions, questioned her decisions, and underestimated her more times than Dani could count. Each wound had built upon the previous one, shaping Hayley into something colder, sharper, and more dangerous than before. Dani began to see how resentment, left unchecked, could fester into something deadly. Randy's motivations seemed simpler, but even they were layered. He had always gravitated toward Hayley, seeking her approval like a shadow clinging to its source. If she needed something done, Randy did not question, only followed. Loyalty twisted into obsession, and obsession made him reckless. Dani's anger bubbled again when she realized Bill's fate had likely been sealed long before this moment, shaped by months of manipulation and quiet planning. Her chest tightened as she watched Hayley mark something on the blueprint with unsettling calm. It was the poise of someone who had already crossed the moral threshold and no longer feared the consequences. Dani felt herself recoil. She had always known Hayley had a darkness buried somewhere deep within her, but she never imagined it could bloom this violently. Confusion tangled with fury inside Dani. She felt betrayed, discarded, and implicated all at once. The weight of what she knew pinned her in place. She tried to imagine a path forward, one where she could save Bill without exposing herself, but every scenario ended in the same disastrous outcome. If she confronted them too early, Bill might not believe her. If she went to the authorities without proof, Hayley and Randy would shift their plans or disappear entirely. If she tried to warn Bill directly, she risked alerting the conspirators before Bill understood the danger. Dani felt the panic tightening her lungs. Her instinct pushed her to flee, to escape this suffocating corridor and the truth it held, but her conscience anchored her in place. Bill's life now rested on her shoulders, a burden she had never asked for but could not ignore. She imagined the guilt of doing nothing, the hollow pain of standing silently at his funeral, knowing she could have stopped it. That image alone forced her trembling body to steady itself. But as her determination solidified, so did her fear. She knew Hayley better than most. Once Hayley committed to a plan, she became a storm that could not be redirected, only survived. Dani realized she was stepping into a battlefield with no guarantee of walking away. She felt the weight of that decision settle into her bones. If she worked to stop them, she would become an obstacle. And obstacles, in Hayley's mind, were things to be removed. Her breath shuddered as she forced herself to stay silent while Hayley and Randy continued refining their plot. Though her eyes stung, she refused to look away. Every gesture, every note they added to the blueprint, every meticulous detail carved into their plan became a weapon she could later use against them. She absorbed everything she could, burning each piece of information into her memory until it seared. Minutes stretched into something heavier than time. Dani's thoughts spiraled around the unbearable truth. She was alone in this. No one else knew what was unfolding. No one else could intervene. She felt the crushing isolation pulling her deeper into her own mind, forcing her to confront the impossible choices before her. She understood that the moment she stepped out of this corridor, nothing in her life would remain the same. She was a spectator now, but soon she would become a participant in a deadly game she never asked to enter. Anger pulsed through her veins again, not wild or explosive, but cold and precise, sharpening her resolve. The betrayal she witnessed carved a deeper determination within her. She could not allow Hayley and Randy to decide the fate of another life so casually, so viciously. Even if Bill had made his own mistakes, even if he himself had not been free of blame, no one deserved to be sentenced in secret by the hands of those they trusted. Dani's thoughts darkened with every passing second. She wondered how far she would have to go to stop them. Would she need to sabotage their plan? Would she have to confront them directly? Would she have to choose between her own safety and the truth? The uncertainty gnawed at her. She realized that to save Bill, she might have to cross boundaries she once believed were immovable. The corridor felt heavier now, stifling, as if the walls themselves were pushing her toward a choice she was not ready to make. She looked at Hayley's silhouette, memorizing the cold precision in her posture, and a sharp pang pierced through her chest. There had been a time when she believed Hayley capable of change, when she thought the fractures between them were temporary. But seeing her now, standing over the blueprint of Bill's fate, Dani understood that whatever softness Hayley once held had been consumed by resentment long ago. Her heart ached with equal parts sorrow and fury. She felt like she had lost Hayley twice, first as a friend, and now as the person she thought she still understood. This Hayley was unrecognizable, hardened by secrets, and driven by a darkness that frightened Dani in ways she could not articulate. The weight of the decision she had to make pressed harder against her chest. She forced herself to step back once more, slipping quietly from the corridor the moment Hayley and Randy turned away. The cold air outside felt like a slap, but it grounded her.
Her legs trembled under her, yet she compelled herself to keep moving, each step echoing the vow forming silently within her. Even if she stood alone, even if she risked everything, she would not allow Bill to walk blindly into his death. She would carry the burden of what she saw. She would bear the consequences of intervening. She would navigate the moral labyrinths that now surrounded her. As she moved farther from the building, a sense of inevitability washed over her. She was already tangled in their conspiracy, whether she had chosen to be or not, and with every passing moment, the danger grew. Her anger, fear, and determination twisted together into something fierce and unyielding. She knew the days ahead would test her in ways she had never imagined. She knew she would be forced to question her own morality, her loyalty, and her ability to confront the darkest sides of those she once loved. But one truth anchored her. She could not let Bill die. She would hold on to that truth, even if the path ahead dragged her into deeper shadows than the ones she had just emerged from.